Okay, take two. We're going to try this thing again. Okay, let's try it again. We're going to try it again. Okay, say hi as you're hopping on. Um, this is my second go round with this thing, so hopefully it's going to work this time. Um, I was saying on the previous take of this that I am kind of doing double duty today. I'm recording a live stream for Facebook, but I'm also recording an episode of the Wealth Witch podcast because this is a topic I really wanted to speak to on there. So I'm going to take just a minute while we're waiting for all the people to arrive and record an intro for the podcast so that we can dive into the content, which I'm super excited to talk about. So, hey, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Witch podcast. I am your host, Leah Steele, the Wealth Witch, and I am super excited to be here doing this episode today. As you know, we have been releasing 2 episodes a week now, and I'm really enjoying getting more free content out into the world and speaking to this audience more and more, which has really been amazing and incredible and is very in line with the topic of today's podcast and what we're going to be discussing today, which is, really how important it is to stay in a place of gratitude and service. How important that is, even when we feel like we want to punch people in the face. So I've had a little bit of a rough morning this morning. I knew I was going to record this podcast. This podcast is being recorded on the heels of me doing a 2.5-hour free masterclass called Reignite Your Soul Fire. I did that a couple of nights ago, and I came to a hotel here in Bali to stay for a few days so that I could record the podcast, also record the masterclass, and do some other filming that I needed to do. I like to switch up my environment and change my scenery from time to time because it brings me new inspiration, which is one of the things I talked about on the masterclass. And we're actually going to be releasing that masterclass as a podcast episode. It's going to be a 2-part episode. So there'll be Saturday releases. So one will come out this Saturday and one will come out the following Saturday. So if you miss the masterclass for any reason, you'll definitely be able to catch the audio version of that here on the podcast. And you can actually also still sign up for the video version of the podcast. We will put a link to that in the show notes. And if you happen to be watching on Facebook while I'm recording this, we will drop a link to the registration for that masterclass. It was an incredible night. I was so inspired. I absolutely loved sharing all the content that I shared. And we were just really talking about how to reignite that soul fire when you step into states of stagnancy, or you're experiencing plateaus, or you're feeling disheartened, or you're feeling like your message just isn't reaching the people that you desire it to reach. I gave a lot of tips and tools and, my own personal experience as well of kind of going through this over the last 6 to 7 months. And so definitely check that out. I think you'll really like it. But after the masterclass was over, I went back to my room, and I'm always like quite wired and full of energy after I do a long content session like that, especially when I'm filming and recording and doing all of that. So to wind down, I actually ended up doing some journaling. And the topic of this podcast today and this live stream today comes from that journaling that I did that night. And, I think that I was just so blown away by, the number of people that registered for the masterclass, the number of people that signed up. And I really was just filled with this extreme gratitude for the work that I get to do in the world. And so I knew I was going to record the podcast about that today, and I was like super excited. But as I woke up this morning, just like all the shit began hitting the fan. Like was having issues at the hotel getting my coffee delivered. Then I was having issues with some of my staff, and then I was having issues with staff here at the hotel. And it's Mercury Retrograde right now, right? We're just a couple days into Mercury Retrograde, and there's just massive communication issues and errors happening right now, and misunderstandings and miscommunications. And I was kind of laughing because I actually spent quite a bit of time during the masterclass talking about this Mercury retrograde and how for the next, about 10 days in particular, because this Mercury retrograde, it's retrograding in Gemini right now, that there's just going to be massive communication errors. But it doesn't stop me from getting frustrated. And so one of my biggest weaknesses is that I get frustrated really easily. And when things aren't running smoothly, or, my schedule's getting interrupted because I'm trying to do things like track down coffee, or like graphics don't look the right way, or something's not aesthetically the way I would like it to be in my business, like I get really frustrated. And it's something that I'm constantly working on and having to work on, is like not getting so annoyed and not getting so frustrated with people. But it was so funny as I was coming to record this, because I was just like all morning, I'm like, I just feel like I want to punch people in the face. And I'm like, okay, how do I stay in this state of gratitude and wanting to be of service while I simultaneously want to punch people in the face? And I was just laughing because I'm like, okay, well, it's a great title for a podcast, right? And this is the reality of life. And I think that we get so caught up in the day-to-day of life that we forget this gratitude piece, and we forget the service piece. And, certainly for me, I run a successful business, and it is very, very easy for me to get caught up in the day-to-day happenings of that business, and not take the time to reflect on how incredibly grateful I am for the work that I get to do in the world. After the masterclass was over and I was doing this journaling, one of the things that I was journaling about was like how inspired I was to take my own advice, and to really continue to double down on the activities that I shared during the masterclass, and how excited I am about like some of the things that are coming up in my business, a couple of programs that I'm running, getting ready to run Heretic again, for those of you that were following when I ran that the last time, which is this 14-day business accelerator that I absolutely love. And, stepping into more expansive programs that help people repattern their wealth consciousness. So I've got a lot of exciting things happening in my business right now. But one of the things that the energy from this masterclass brought me, and one of the things that I was feeling after it was over, was how much I love being in service. So the masterclass was free, and it was a fairly large commitment of my time. We also filmed it and recorded it for repurposing. So I actually paid money to do this masterclass. I didn't get paid to do it. And I was kind of like, oh, should I charge? Should I not? And I ended up deciding to do it for free, because that was just really like the universe and my soul was telling me that doing it for free was the best option for this particular masterclass. But it reminded me how much I love to be of service. And it reminded me that when I stop worrying about where my income and my cash flow comes from, and I just show up every day in a place of service to my community, and I allow money to just flow to me from any avenue it desires to flow to me, that's actually when I'm operating in my highest and best self. When I stop worrying about, oh, I have this program on sale, I have this, masterclass on sale sometimes, I have, this 14-day business accelerator on sale, and I need to go do activities to sell these programs. When I stop doing that and I just show up from a place of service, I'm in joy and I'm in flow. That's how I access my flow states, is being in service, just showing up and delivering whatever it is that the message is that needs to be delivered that day, and not trying to attach it to an outcome. I used to be so good at this. And I think, again, it's like, you start running a 7-figure business and there's all these expenses that go along with that. And there's staff and team and all these things. And so things can become quite sterile, and they can become quite logistical. And one of the things that I recognized after I got off this masterclass is that I've actually fallen out of my flow state. And as a result of that, my finances are being impacted, my attitude, my mood is being affected, my employees are being affected. And so it was just this really beautiful reminder of, no, that's not what's important. The logistics, the numbers, the administrative tasks, the bottom line is not actually what's important. What's important is the message. What's important is the mission. What's important is the why. That has to take the forefront. And in order to serve that why, I have to just show up in a place of service every day. And sometimes that looks like a live stream. Sometimes that looks like recording a podcast. Sometimes that looks like writing a post. But it's about delivering the message. And so obviously today, the message is to stay in a place of service. But what I realized is when I am in a place of service, that is when I can really tap into gratitude. When I step out of like full-time business operation, needing to do, and I step into service, I actually have an awareness of the things that I'm grateful for. And after this masterclass, I was just like, oh my God, how fucking epic is it that I literally get to show up in my community and talk about things I love and help people radically transform their lives and help people create financial freedom and step back into sovereignty, deconstruct financial slavery consciousness, give their family choices and options. Like, how amazing is that? And, when I am entrenched in the day-to-day business operations and the dealings and the, everything that needs to be done and everyone that needs something from me and my to-do list, which is always, topping 50 things. When I'm focused on that, I'm not able to access my true flow state because I'm not tapping into that gratitude and that amazement at what I get to do, the work I get to do in the world. That I literally get paid to sit here and talk to you guys about topics and things that I feel like are important, and I get to show up every day in my business and help people. That is amazing. That is so amazing. And I feel so blessed and I feel so lucky to be able to do that. So it was just this big reminder for me that it's so important for me to keep coming back to gratitude. And in order to come back to gratitude, I need to just be showing up from a place of service. And I have so many things in my life to be grateful for right now. And, that I think we all at some point have, in our spiritual journey, been told to do the gratitude list or, done the journaling exercise where every day we write what we're grateful for. And, I think it's kind of an early spiritual ascension or reawakening activity that I think that many of us do. But I was like, you know what? I actually want to go back to this. I want to go back to this daily gratitude list. Even if I'm not journaling it, even if I'm just going through it in my head, because I've fallen away from it. And I do have so much to be grateful for. This podcast, the listeners, of this podcast, my Facebook community, my Instagram community, and, my children and my family and my partner and my incredible staff and team and everybody that, makes the Leah Steele brand go round. And yeah, it just was, it was a reminder that life isn't about the bottom line. Life isn't about how much money you make every month. Life isn't about how well your administrative team is performing their tasks. Life is about enjoyment, and life is about experiences, and life is about, realizing our full human and divine potential in this very, very short amount of time that we get to have on this planet. And it's easy to forget that. It's easy to get caught up in all the things that aren't going right, all the things that aren't going your way, all the Mercury retrograde shenanigans that might be happening on any given day, all the frustrations that you're having, and not remember just how incredibly blessed we are to be living this life, how incredibly blessed we are to have the things in our life that we have. And, when I first started doing gratitude lists, it was at a time in my life where I felt like I didn't have very much to be grateful for. I had 2 businesses that were collapsing. I was $1 million in debt. We lost a house and a car. And my husband at the time was, selling plasma to pay for diapers and formula. Like, I didn't feel like I had a lot to be grateful for at the time. But that's when I started doing these gratitude lists, and I would be amazed at the end of every day, like how many items I was able to put on that list. And I really, truly do believe that staying in that state of gratitude is what enabled me to move through that very, very difficult time in my life. But like everything else, it's human nature to, when things start going good, we stop doing the things that got us to the place of things being good and things being amazing. And honestly, I haven't done a gratitude list for a long time. I feel like, I live in this incredibly, incredibly beautiful place. Bali, Indonesia is just one of the most beautiful places you'll ever go. And I don't mean it just like aesthetically, the island is beautiful. It is beautiful, but it certainly is not the most beautiful island in the world. But the people and the energy of this island are just so incredibly beautiful. And so every day I'm overcome with gratitude for where I live and the people that I'm surrounded by, and just driving through the rice fields, seeing like how incredibly beautiful this island is and the energy of the island. And so I feel like I've kind of thought like, because I'm always in gratitude of that I'm doing gratitude or I'm embracing gratitude. And my realization was this week that I am actually not, and I haven't been. And I do have so many things to be incredibly, incredibly grateful for. So I'm going to be writing that. I'm going to do a 30-day gratitude challenge for myself of just those daily check-ins, whether it's journaling or, just an evening check-in and reflection on, all the things in my life that I'm incredibly grateful for. And then I'm really just making another commitment, and I do this from time to time, but I'm making another new commitment to just really show up in service and from a place of service, and to stop having attachment to the numbers and the bottom line and the business operations and dealings, and to step back into really accessing those flow states by being of service to my community. So yeah, and I think that it's back to service. It's back to sharing the message. It's back to showing up in that place of service. And when I'm asked to do things, saying yes. And yeah, expanding my why. I feel like I'm at the precipice of this massive, massive expansion in my life and my business. Like, I know something big is coming. Like, I'm on the precipice of, stepping into that next level version of myself. I've felt it coming for a couple of months. It feels massive. It feels so, so huge. I've been talking to some mentors of mine about next steps and sort of where I'm going and where I'm heading. And it's not crystal clear yet, but I can definitely feel the expansion happening. And so one of the things that dropped in as I was doing this journaling after the masterclass was like, I need to expand my why. Like it's about expanding my why bigger than it's ever been before, and really getting clear on who I want to serve. So this is obviously one avenue. I do a lot of free forward-facing content. So, Facebook, Instagram, the podcast, where I'm, speaking to the masses. And that is part of my why. And that is part of how I desire to serve, is to continue to produce quality, free content for people that are desiring to change their financial realities and create choices for themselves and step back into sovereignty and economic freedom. So that's one way that I want to serve. But I had to ask myself after this masterclass, who would I be if I showed up bigger than I'm currently showing up? Like, who would I be if I showed up bigger than I've ever showed up before? If I showed up more in purpose, if I showed up, as the most expanded version of myself that I can imagine myself being, like, who would I be reaching then? Who would that target market be? Who would that population be that I would be serving? And so these are just, some of the things that I'm considering right now. And it felt like it was important to share it on this podcast, because I feel like, many of you may be in the same scenario and in the same situation. We've, transitioned into a time where we are experiencing a Jupiter in Aries astrological transit, and we're moving out of a Jupiter in Pisces transit. And so we are stepping into, the individual, like the personal expansion of the individual. And that Jupiter and Pisces energy that we're moving out of has been, quite frustrating. We talked a lot about this on the masterclass, so definitely listen to that if any of this is calling to you. But yeah, it has been quite murky for the last 6 months or so. And so I think that, likely a lot of you that are listening have been feeling some level of this, some stagnation, or feeling plateaued, or not feeling inspired. And just know that, like, this energy has shifted as of this week. And so now it really is time for you to ask yourself, like, who is the next level version of you? What do you desire to be contributing to the planet? Who do you desire to be contributing to? Who are the people that you desire to serve? For me, I'm like, I'm reaching tens of thousands of people right now, and I really desire to impact millions. That has been part of my why and a desire of mine for a really, really long time. I desire, or I believe that my purpose on this planet is to impact millions of lives, to see millions of lives changed. And so that means that right now I actually really need to be reaching hundreds of thousands in order to create that ripple and to create that impact. And so, I'm sort of just sitting in this space of like, what does that look like without pushing, like allowing that information to come to me. And it's been really fascinating over the last couple of days since I did this journaling. I've had different people reaching out to me about speaking opportunities. I've had different people reaching out to me about different types of content monetization opportunities. And so, it's just like when we put it out there to the universe, when we're like, we get clear on what we actually desire. And my desire is to impact millions of lives, to change millions of lives. And I just put that out in the universe, and I'm like, okay, universe, God, source, universe, all that is, whatever you call it, like, show up for me, show me the way. I'm ready and willing to do my part and show up, but I need the guidance. I need you to show me how to do this, because that's not my job. It's not my job to figure out the how. That's the universe's job. My job is just to show up and take inspired action day after day and serve, right? And be of service. So, yeah, and the one piece that I kind of got clear on as I was doing this journaling was that, I really desire to help people find purpose and passion in their lives, and to do what they love, impact the world, and make heaps of money doing it, because I believe that we all deserve to be wildly financially compensated for the work we do in the world. But ultimately, like, my bigger mission is I want to help people exit the program. I want to help people exit the matrix and realize that they actually get to live their lives from a place of sovereignty and have choices and have economic freedom. So that's kind of the initial bit of expansion that is dropping in for me around this new Jupiter and Aries transit and on the heels of this masterclass. And so I just kind of wanted to come and share some of that with you. And I'm actually feeling much better now and less like I want to punch people in the face because I showed up and served, right? Because I showed up and delivered the message. So at some level, sometimes we just have to do the thing, whether we feel like doing it or not, whether we're frustrated or not. You know, I was coming on to do a podcast about gratitude and service, and I really just wanted to punch people. And I'm like, how's that going to come off? But here it is. I just show up. I'm authentic. I'm transparent. I'm vulnerable. I tell you how I'm feeling. I deliver the message, and here we are. So yeah, I hope that was incredibly valuable. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, it is your divine birthright to be wealthy in all areas of your life, and you are so worthy and you are so deserving. Mwah.